I usually journal at the end of the night, and I'll pull out whatever pen. Doesn't really matter so much as long as it's small, because the book is small. I pulled it out this morning because I was up extra early and thinking, some nice sunlight. I got to sit here with a coffee and write it out, because it was a very busy weekend here. It's a very interesting time, even with me in my studio space. I was like, this should all be done on paper. I should understand what this time feels like. I may need to review this in 6 weeks. I may need to review this in 6 years. But somehow it's all getting jumbled, and it needs to just be put down in letter forms.
Definitely don't agree with it at all. But I also to each their own, I think.
But it was like people with Livejournal and with their blogs and whatever. Some people did it for attention. And some people did it because it just felt so good to put something in a space. And it was public but anonymous at the same time, because maybe none of the people that knew you knew your Livejournal or whatever it was. But you had it out there in a real space, and you knew that people could see it, and that made it real. And so you were expressing something you just needed to put out there in the world. And as long as it was out there, somehow it made it more concrete. And you could move past that emotion, or you could dwell on it, but it was real and it was there. And the next day you weren't going to forget it if you woke up hungover. That was a real emotion. And I think that weird sort of Livejournal era of the internet got a lot of people through a lot of hard stuff, and introduced them to a lot of other strangers who felt the same ways they did. The digital journal of today is definitely Tumblr.
Is it even?
I feel like.
It's
The thing is that people...
It's a scrapbook.
It is. It definitely is a place where people just reblog and post things. But there's a lot of original writing. There's a lot of journaling that happens on Tumblr and weird sort of posts. But even in the reblogging and sharing of images and posts, it's almost this collage form of journaling. And you see people go through emotional phases and creative phases and different sort of visual phases of their life. And I do the same, because I, sort of will maintain a Tumblr just as a creative space. And whatever my headspace is, whether it's like a dark, creative space, or a really sort of bright, hopeful space about my life, or vice versa, that'll sort of reflect in the type of art I'm posting, my own sort of writing that I put on there, and it becomes sort of this collage journal going on. But there's a lot of very sort of intense writing that happens on there too, that I might happen upon by accident through a hashtag or something. And I don't see that really on any other medium, because Facebook has become sort of too public and too open, and some people are sort of personal on there, but mostly it's kind of a surface level sort of photo album for the world on your life. And there's nothing else that functions as personally as those sort of MySpace Livejournals. And most people that, teenagers, early 20s, like we were when Livejournal was huge, are basically using things like Tumblr, because they don't want to be on Facebook. That's where mom and dad are. That's the only thing I can see as like a comparable comparison. And I think we just did it in text because images were not functional on the internet yet. Like, half of us were at home with parents and a 14.4 modem. So like scanning in pictures from your disposable 35mm camera and posting them on Livejournal was just not a functional mode of expression like it is today. Definitely not one for the lazy. What's beautiful about Tumblr and people just reblogging quotes or drafts from books is that an audience that wouldn't necessarily be knee-deep in Virginia Woolf texts or, Hemingway gets that taste of it, and may inspire them to read great written works and be inspired by writers and go out and explore a bit of that, and poets that otherwise are kind of lost, to our age group. So in some ways, I think that there are some little positive things that come out of even that sort of regurgitation of like quotes and block text things on Tumblr.